Essentially what it does is it would take a program that was already built out in the Texas Department of Ag. There was a low-interest loan program and a grant program, but you had to be of a finite age, so originally between 18 to 46 years of age.
Okay.
And the money was certainly beneficial, but it wouldn't capture the overall expenditure that we're seeing in today's time. And so what we were able to do is go in and reverse the age restrictions, so anybody of an age can qualify, as well as we enhanced the maximum capacity that you could apply for on the low interest loan side from $500,000 up to $1 million, and then from the grant side of things going from $20,000 up to $500,000.
All right, well, Mr. Kody Bessent, pleasure to have you here. You are the Plains Cotton Growers CEO. So can you give us a little backstory, kind of your early life growing up in is it ACUF?
Yeah, I grew up in ACUF, Texas. It's great to be here with you. Appreciate you doing this and Wylie implement all the support that they provide the community as well.
Yes, sir.
From an agricultural perspective. But I grew up in ACUF, Texas. We grew up on a fourth-generation farm that was essentially started by my great-grandfather when his family migrated to this area from across the way.
Okay.
Still maintains some activity on that farm ownership as well. Most of it what we have is leased out today, but we still have some personal tie to our home place that my dad functions with as well. But grew up just south of ACUF, mainly a cotton, grain, and sorghum farm, predominantly cotton.
Okay.
Wonderful atmosphere to grow up in. Certainly taught me a lot about life at an early age, responsibilities. Have great parents that are still operational today. A brother and sister with their families that are still around as well in the vicinity of the area.
Yes, sir.
But really enjoyed what we got to learn growing up on the farm, whether that was from the planting season to chopping weeds whenever we were younger, to running a spider at that point in time before we looked at larger spray equipment.
Right.
And the functionality of harvest and just the culmination of putting together a crop with my dad when I was a little kid. So it taught me and instilled a lot of value of just the overall ag industry. Went to school at Roosevelt ISD for the initial stages of my life, and then we transferred at the end of my freshman year to Idle High School, which is where I graduated from, actually.
Good deal.
Just had a lot of our friends go there. The academia was a little bit more robust at that point in time, but really enjoyed it there. Grew up in FFA and 4-H, did livestock judging, entomology judging, show pigs, show goats. So a pretty unique atmosphere compared to what people are going through today as well. And then went off to college.
Okay.
Once I graduated, that was one deal that my folks instilled upon all of us, is that didn't really care what degree we got a degree in, but they wanted to go to college so we could further our education. So loved being from the area, but wanted to get away for a little bit, so I went to West Texas A&M University.
Understand.
Just to be kind of far enough away, but close enough we could come back home.
Sure.
So I went there, got a degree in agricultural education and a minor in agricultural business and economics. Was how I started off. Never, in my wildest dream, thought I would be where I'm at today. I'm very fortunate about it, but
yes, sir.
I actually went through student teaching, get certified to teach, and then just had some really unique career paths in life that I've been very blessed with. And we can talk more about that in the segment as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of, in 2007, you interned with a representative, Mac Thornberry.
I did, yes, sir. That's really kind of what set my change in course of action, I guess, in my career path. So I had every intention of being an agricultural science teacher and got certified to teach, loved it. Still have a huge passion for that industry. But a friend of mine, one of our main duties to maintain our scholarship at the university was we were supposed to go to different schools to go and talk about our stories, talk about the university, and recruit. That was part of our scholarship. And so that individual is still a good friend today. They just came back from doing an internship in D.C. And so we spent about an hour and a half on the road driving to and from the high school that we went to. And they just told me about their story, how unique it was. I had never really been anywhere outside of the state unless we went on a family vacation. And really never thought anything about that before, but it just instilled me to start looking at different things in a different light.
Yeah.
And so I applied for an internship, I was actually thinking about this the other night whenever we started to set up this podcast
Yes, sir.
with y'all. I had a really heartfelt set of professors while we were there. They were certainly very inviting into their homes, their overall lifestyles. But I applied for the internship in the summertime of 2005 actually is whenever I was there.
Oh, okay.
So summer 2005.
Gotcha.
But anyway, went up to Canyon. The professor that I had at the time, since I lived in the dorm at the time, but we couldn't stay in the dorm over summer, so I was living here and doing some scouting work for entomology-based work for Texas bull weevil, and then also working for Dad on the farm.
Gotcha.
But he let me come stay at their house. Their kids were gone for summer camp, and so they were just very, very inviting and very comforting. Got me prepared for my interview. Did the interview that summer, and then was fortunate enough to get selected to go for a full fall semester and intern for then Congressman Mac Thornberry, and then had the good grace to be able to go back and work for him as a staffer for a short stint after I finished up my undergraduate degree when I came back home. So it really gave me a unique insight as a very young 19, 20-year-old, being in a foreign city, for lack of a better term, a lot of concrete jungle and a lot of interesting folks from all walks of life. It really just intrigued me, and so you kind of get a bug and an itch, and so I wanted to go back, and fortunately was able to go back and work doing the development of the 2008 Farm Bill process.
Okay.
Which was the stint that I was there before I came back home.
Yeah. So what kind of moved you to do that, and rather than kind of more of a direct political path?
Kind of getting to see both fields and walks from life, I guess. So once I kind of understood more of the intricacies of how policy was developed, whether that be the process in general or the people that I got to work with and the advocacy connection, I really enjoyed it. But I wanted to try to see if I could, make a different perspective. And wanted to come back home closer to my family as well.
Gotcha.
So I moved back home. Went back to school, worked on a master's degree, and then also worked for the weed industry for about a 6 or 7 year stint on policy and advocacy and field services as well. And so really got to kind of shape and mold from a direct standpoint on farm policy and kind of hone in a skill set versus just being spread an inch deep and a mile wide. I got to be more of a mile deep and an inch wide and be very focused on a singular commodity, which I appreciate and respect a lot. You can do a lot of interesting navigating and advocacy by doing that.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so leading into more of the Plains cotton grower side, what kind of brought you into the fold and helped you build up to the CEO status?
So pretty interesting backstory, I guess. So again, as I mentioned, I worked for the weed industry for a number of years, and then slowly wanted to get back home to where I grew up at with my family. Had the opportunity to then come and work for the High Plains Water District. This is whenever they were reshaping their rules at the time, back in 2014, around in there. And so with a new set of board of directors there, a new general manager that I got to work with, we helped reshape the rules from an overall standpoint, taking in a lot of input from the producer-based community, because that's who was being vastly impacted. And then my job then was to help in working in tandem with the board and the general manager to go provide the advocacy framework for the State House to be able to show, hey, we're being very good stewards and conscientious stewards of the resource, but here's a set of rules that people can essentially function by and honestly realistically live by.
Right.
So I did that for a number of years, and then was asked to come and consider working for Plains Cotton Growers. Just having a very unique skill set from working in the State House as well as in DC.
Sure.
So navigated over to there underneath the tutelage of Steve Verrett and the board of directors at that point in time. Worked in tandem with Steve for a number of years, and then once he retired, was able to be asked to see if I would consider filling in that role. So that's kind of the short and sweet of it, but it's been a very unique task. I've been with Plains Cotton Growers for a little over 10 years now.
Okay, well, congrats.
So thank you. I appreciate that. I love working for the industry, the cotton industry very specifically. It's something that's very unique to my background, very personal to my background, and so I take a lot of pride in being able to advocate for that industry segment.
Yes, sir. Well, man, done a good job so far. Thank you. Okay, so Plains Cotton Growers is not technically a co-op, correct?
We're not. So we're a 501c5.
Okay.
We're a non-for-profit is what we are. We serve the upper 42 counties in the Panhandle and Southern High Plains of Texas, predominantly for producer-based advocacy. So obviously working on federal and state regulatory and policy initiatives. But we also have some what I would call separate segregated funds. So we have our Plains Cotton Improvement Program, which is our research arm that essentially funds research projects to help develop better seed and agronomic varieties of seed, better technology, better farming practices. That we do research back and forth with Texas Tech and Texas AgriLife Research Extension. So we manage and oversee that. And then we have our third arm, which is the Political Action Committee. So they all work in tandem together, just in different functionalities.
Sure. Is there one that seems to make a bigger difference than the other? Or?
Depending on what's within your wheelhouse. So
Right.
you've got some growers that are really instilled upon, hey, we want to see, what's a new and innovative way that we can utilize our natural resources for agronomic practices. So by example, there's some studies going on right now that we help support on row spacing initiatives. So either extra wide row or just different narrow spacing, see which one works better.
Sure.
So certainly that's a functionality and important to this region because of our limited resources on water.
Right.
And trying to capitalize on that, how we preserve that for the long term. Our core initiative is through PCG, which that's where we build out with our board of directors as well as other regional-based groups and our national group on our policy objectives, either in DC or in Austin. So, a couple of key examples is we just shored up through the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill in July.
Okay.
That had multiple key initiatives that we had been working on with our national group for roughly 3 to 4 years, and that's how we stabilized some of the Farm Bill initiatives in that point. So what I mean by that is raising the reference price for seed cotton from 36.7 cents up to 42 cents, so getting it more to where cost of production relatively is at today. Enhancing the marketing assistance loan to make it more relative where we're at today from 52 cents to 55 cents, making vast improvements to the crop insurance provisions that we utilize today from a risk management standpoint. A couple of things that we didn't get to shore up, like we vastly worked on trying to abolish the prohibition of being able to purchase what's called stacks, which is a cotton-only based insurance product.
Gotcha.
And then still being able to participate in PLC or ARC. But one thing we were able to functionally do is hedge a little bit and increase the premium-based rate that helps offset some of the cost within the supplemental coverage option, so it was on parity with stacks.
Okay.
So a grower can take that and then still be able to participate in Title I.
Gotcha.
And that's only a handful of provisions. We doubled the market access program funds, doubled the foreign market development program funds, and from a globalistic standpoint, that's what we utilize for essentially being able to court buyers of our product
Sure.
in a global market.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really unique key initiatives, as well as extending in perpetuity for the time being. Tax extenders, so like bonus depreciation, Section 199A, Section 179. So all that was included in this one large package. And I say it in context is none of that was birthed overnight. It took multiple years of working on that, as well as heavy hands being able to make that come to fruition on the federal side of things. One thing that complements those efforts is having a robust political action committee. So that's where both of those sort of intersect that we get to manage and operate.
Sure.
Some people have a little bit different taste of what a political action committee does. And really what we utilize it for is we need good members in Congress. We need a Chairman G.T. Thompson of the House Agricultural Committee. We need a Chairman Senator Bozeman of the Senate Agricultural Committee. We need a Ronnie Jackson from the Upper Panhandle. We need an August Fluker. We need quite frankly, our candidate for the District 19 to replace Jody Arrington. We need a Tom Self.
Right.
But it takes money to do that, to get elected.
Sure.
And so we partner with a lot of interesting working groups. So like we partner a lot with the sugar industry.
Okay.
Partner a lot with the peanut industry, the sorghum industry, rice, crop insurance. So when we come together and advocate collectively as a whole, we can support candidates to get them reelected, because it does take the financial means to do that, keep them there, and that helps advocate in our efforts in the long run.
Yeah.
So they sort of intersect, but it does, quite frankly, take financial means to get reelected. It's
Sure.
not a easy way to do it without having the financial support. So,
Sure. Yeah.
On the state side of things, to give you kind of another recent example, we're very active in the State House. We're typically more of I would say a libertarian a lot of times in the State House, unless something really is intrinsic and transpires, which it did. A lot of times we're trying to kind of be on more of the defensive side of, protecting private property rights and our water resource, things like that. But fortunately and unfortunately, because of the peril we've seen in the cotton industry specifically in the last 2 to 3 years, there was a very strategic initiative that I'm very proud of from Plains Cotton Growers as well as Texas Farm Bureau were able to help lead in building out some of the parameters within House Bill 43 that was a very unique initiative by House Speaker Burrows as well as Representative Kitzman in the State House, and then also led by Senator Sparks and Senator Perry in the Senate side. And essentially what it does is it would take a program that was already built out in the Texas Department of Ag. There was a low interest loan program and a grant program, but you had to be of a finite age, so originally between 18 to 46 years of age.
Okay.
And the money was certainly beneficial, but it wouldn't capture the overall expenditure that we're seeing in today's time. And so what we were able to do is go in and reverse the age restrictions, so anybody of an age can qualify, as well as we enhanced the maximum capacity that you could apply for on the low interest loan side from $500,000 up to $1 million, and then from the grant side of things going from $20,000 up to $500,000. So that way it captures more of the realistic times that we live in today and how expensive it is just to run an operation.
Yeah.
The other thing that was very unique to us, and while we're solely a producer-based group, but we also know that infrastructure has a role. We all have to depend on one another, whether that's with a cotton gin or a warehouse or an implement dealership, things of that nature. And so we expanded the scope of not just having a producer being eligible, but also an agricultural business, as more specifically as it relates to supply chain and resiliency. So like right now, a first touch point can apply for this program.
Okay.
And it's ongoing today right now. I've been trying to help the industry heal up from the financial challenges we've seen.
Right.
Secondary point will be on the producer-based side. That'll open up sometime in April. There's other 2 key components. The second and third will be more tailored toward like a specialty crop or livestock. And then the fourth will be to a downstream segment, so a warehouse or implementation facility, things of that nature. So it was a great, fun project. It's the largest investment in the agriculture industry we've seen in nearly 40 years. There's roughly $100 million that the state was able to muster up and help build out this program to protect our industries.
Sure.
And so we're excited about that. And then that'll give us some runway to build out some other risk management-based tools on the federal side. And I can talk about that here in a second too.
Sure. Well, that's definitely leading into the question of commodity prices and things of that nature. And I know that you mentioned it, that we're financially struggling, but I think the outlook is good on the cotton side, even if it doesn't look like it right now.
Yeah, so kind of in perspective, I know there's a lot of really unique parts that are moving right now that if you combine them all, it'll help the industry survive moving forward, at least in the near term, and then allow for some runway to build out some more long-term tools that'll help in the overall scheme of things. So certainly as you get basically Plainview South, for the most part, it's pretty difficult to grow many different crops other than cotton, sorghum, some wheat, if you have some cattle, peanuts, as you get further south of here, depending on the soil texture and makeup. Water resources are a big thing. And so we're kind of limited in scope of what we can do a little bit. So we're trying to enhance what can be done to maintain the solvency of the industry as a whole. As you look kind of what's going on today, we just finished out setting the insurance discovery price, the revenue protection price.
Okay.
So it's set at 69 cents. And then also growers, the vast majority in this area, if not all, take on what's called a seed endorsement.
Sure.
And that was set at 11 cents. So you're looking at about 80 cents a pound of revenue protection, depending on what your guarantee level is. And then you can stack other insurance products like supplemental coverage, et cetera. You also have the Farm Bridge Assistance that's now going out. That was an initiative led by USDA that industry had a hand in helping shape and tool and work with USDA to build that out to help with not only the implications of trade disputes, but also just the economic conditions that we've been faced with suppressed low prices for a number of years now. So that's going out. They're finishing up the disaster-based programs that we saw for the 23 and 24 crop year.
Yes.
That should be finalized in April and have some additional resources within that. And in the fall, this was part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, but it'd be a one-time deal.
Yes, sir.
Where whatever a grower signed up for, it didn't matter if it was PLC or ARC, they would get the higher of that program.
Okay.
No matter what for this 1 year. So that'll come in the fall of this year, in October of this year.
Awesome.
So you've got that coupled with crop proceeds, even though markets have been challenged, don't get me wrong. So there's a lot of capital injection going into the economy right now.
Right.
Once realized, I think people will be relatively okay going into a new cropping season. Most people have been able to get refinanced. That was a big reason for doing a lot of these initiatives to make sure that could happen. And then the goal moving forward is to try to make some more improvements to stabilize and build up our market. So you'll have a new enrollment in PLC and ARC for the 26 crop year. That'll come in the near months. That USDA hasn't set a deadline on that yet. There's still some things they're having to work on base reallocation, things like that.
Sure.
We've got the Buy America Cotton Act that we've been promoting. That's one of the reasons we'll be in DC this next week.
Oh, okay.
Is to help partner with the American Cotton Shippers Association, with National Cotton Council, to continue to further that initiative along the lines. And it would basically create a tax credit incentive for retailers and brands to either domestically purchase more cotton here at home or source U.S. derived cotton from a mill overseas as we export it.
Okay.
They get better incentives the more closer tied it is to the U.S. So if they source it here domestically, better incentive. If they source it from a mill that's U.S. derived raw fiber, better incentive. If they're part of a free trade country with the U.S., better incentive, so on and so forth. So the closer you're tied here, the better the initiative is for that company. And that'll help hopefully stabilize the market and drive some demand on a more natural-based manner is the overall goal. And then the last thing I'll say on another kind of key element that we've been working on in tandem with South Texas Cotton and Grain, National Cotton Council, is a harvest cost endorsement initiative.
Okay.
So it's another insurance-based tool that we've worked on for about a year and a half now. Administratively, we think it's in a very good position, but essentially what it would be is a tool that a grower could take on their own individual policy. And traditionally, from an economic standpoint, they may come in and terminate that crop early season.
Sure.
Whether that's through a hailstorm or skippy stands, it just economically, it just makes sense to do that. Now, with this endorsement, they may be able to make some changes in how they're operating from an economic-based standpoint. If they take that crop into harvest with this tool, then, and it's still in a quagmire type position when they get it there, so they're below their APH from a harvest standpoint. They can still harvest it, and they would still provide some risk management in that format for that individual grower.
Yeah.
So that helps protect the grower, but it also helps provide some volume for downstream infrastructure at a later date, whether that's the gin or the warehouse, and really create some continuity and sustainability in the overall economic situation for the region that we've seen really deteriorate for the last couple of years. So we're getting close. Administratively, like I said, it's in a really good place with USDA IRMA. They've got a new set of board of directors, a new chief economist, chairman of the board, new administrator. So we're working with them now to get them up to speed. And then, moreover, if they do need some additionality of support, we've got Congressman Ronnie Jackson that's now carrying a piece of legislation that was included in Farm Bill 2.0 in the last couple of weeks. It was marked up to sort of as call it a hedge, if you will. That way, if they need some additional push, it's there. So.
Sure. Okay. So is the goal to help the gins recuperate and maybe bring some back, or are we just going to try and work with what we have and maybe see if we can make it a little better?
Ideally, the goal would be to help the infrastructure that's there heal up. So the cotton industry is very unique, sometimes in good ways, a lot of times in good ways. I guess I would say in this instance, it's kind of hit or miss. So once infrastructure goes offline, it is almost cotton infrastructure specifically, it's almost impossible or very difficult to bring it back online.
Gotcha.
So we've had some gins, unfortunately, that have went out of business the last couple of years just because of a lack of volume. We've seen some acquisitions and some mergers.
Sure.
We're going to continue to see some of that over time. That's just the finicky nature that we operate within. But the goal with HB 43 and this harvest cost endorsement is to create some stability. And that way we don't continue to see this large gyrations whenever we have good and bad crop years for a number of years. It'll help keep them in business.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think that's a positive outlook. That way, I mean, there's no short-term necessarily relief, but definitely thinking of the long term, and I think that's positive.
Well, the big thing is we know at some point in time this region is going to have another robust crop, and we need infrastructure there to be able to process it. That's a big thing. Or else we're going to have, gins running for 6, 7, 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
That also comes at a detriment sometimes to the producer-based segment as well, because they've got to wait on that gin to process that raw fiber, wait on that quality sample, be able to market it, and they may lose some marketing opportunities just because the infrastructure is not there. That's what we're trying to preserve at this point, to make sure that they can run hard and fast and make sure their customers are taken care of just like anyone else.
Yeah. So I know you guys are mostly cotton specific, but I know down in South Texas they do multiple different things. Is there some initiatives going in place to help with the water crisis kind of going on in that area?
So the little one I'm aware of down in South Texas is you had USDA implement, can't remember the name of the act off the top of my head, but it was basically a grant program that they could run through TDA that would help mitigate some of the water loss resource. You also have like the Texas governor, as well as Chairman Charles Perry, and some other key folks down in the area that are essentially forcing the argument and the issue at large of Mexico not honoring their agreement with the U.S. To release water, so that way they can still have some functionality down there. We have seen some challenges with that. I think they're getting to a better place and working with a change in some even the regime down in Mexico. It's kind of a unique aspect down there, and I'm not as familiar with it as my counterparts are down there, but it's unique in the fact that you've got a new administration within Mexico that has certainly been a little bit more open to talking about it.
Sure.
This administration certainly has been very aggressive about forcing the issue, especially with the State Department, making sure that everybody's holding to their agreements on the treaty.
Right.
But the other challenge you get into is you have border issues, you have the cartel, you got things that sort of interject where it's a quasi-unsafe environment sometimes down there. And so they're trying to be mindful of that so they don't put people at harm's way too for dealing back and forth with one another. So it's a totally different can of worm down there than it is here.
Yes, sir. I understand. So you mentioned just earlier that you're involved in research and development as well as legislative. What kind of makes those two things merge?
Oh, great question. A perfect example, actually. So every year we review research projects that are submitted. The vast majority of the funding that we have goes toward the cotton breeding program. Okay. So building out newer based varieties, testing them on different atmospheres, different fronts. We also have the replicated agronomic trials, so the race trials. So you'll see different field days where they'll compare a multitude of varieties from not just the commercial breeding system through AgriLife or A&M, but also the other companies within the region, just so they can show how they're competing against one another in a similar based trial across many different regions within the area. So that's where a good portion of our functionality goes. But we also fund research for like bacterial blight research or fusarium wilt. And so kind of how the legislative initiative sort of curtails into that, as well as some of the research funding that we provide support on is 6 years ago, if I remember correctly, we worked with an initiative for then Representative Burrows, now Speaker Burrows. Gotcha. He filed an initiative for us on our behalf. It's called HB 2089. And it was basically to try to provide some grant funding through Texas Department of Ag to combat a new fusarium wilts. FOV4 is what it's called.
Gotcha.
We didn't know a lot about it. It was causing some challenges within seed-borne and soil-borne disease. And so then we could leverage both the grant dollars and the research dollars that we had, and then the researchers that are conducting the research still today, they could leverage those dollars to go after a larger pot on the federal side. And so it helps really create a robust portfolio to do more aggressive research to address the problem at hand quickly.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want it to bleed over into an area where we knew we didn't have it today, but we certainly didn't want to experience it in another area at a future date.
Yes, sir. Okay. And what about the more, I guess, community financial institutions, say Capital Farm Credit, or do you guys work with any of them? And
we do. So we work with all of them, either a farm credit or a commercial bank. We've got a lot of really mainstay support here in our region. Very proud of that. Very thankful to have them.
Yes, sir.
They've been very good about trying to get their customers financed as best as possible. I know it's been very difficult for a number of years now. One thing that we've helped in working in tandem with them on from our role as an organization is we've hosted a multitude of meetings with the commercial lenders and with farm credits to help them better understand not just the loan officers but their creditors as well, the farm policy initiatives that are implemented today, what they look like, how they function, and so that way they can hopefully utilize that in a loan portfolio if needed to get their customer refinanced. So,
sure.
the PLC is the easiest example I can use from a Title I perspective. It's a very, very basic formula. If prices go below a reference price that's set in statute, then that will trigger some financial assistance for that grower based on their own individual yield. And so for a lender to be able to have some comfort with that and understanding that if the world kind of falls off into a deep end, they've got some other financial assistance that's there that they can count upon, because it is a triggering point.
Yeah.
And they can utilize that in the loan portfolio. But yeah, certainly we do a lot of work with them. We've got a lot of support from industry as a whole, especially as we look at our annual meeting that's coming up, by example,
yes.
and rely upon that. Rely upon a lot of community support to be able to host a meeting of a magnitude that we've had it grown to.
Yes, sir. So speaking of the annual meeting, is there any major topics that were going to be brought up?
So several. So our annual meeting will be on April the 7th.
Okay.
It'll be at the Overton Hotel. We'll have Speaker Burrows come, and he'll give some opening remarks, mainly to capitalize on the unique work that House Bill 43 was done, how it came about, the importance and value of it. We'll have some additional open remarks from our president of our board, Travis Myers.
Sure.
And then Liz Hirschfield. She is relatively new to the industry. She works as the CEO for Cotton Council International, which is our big, large global marketing group that we all partner with. She's going to be there and just give some basic context of how they're shifting and moving and trying to capitalize on people buying more readily based product, raw fiber, and putting that into apparel across the board, and some of the unique things that she's been able to do. She comes from a retailing background, so she brings a very unique and open perspective. We will also have the Republican Ag Commissioner-elect. He will be here, Nathan Sheets. So for people to get to know him a little bit better, very eclectic individual, very, very well spoken, certainly has a lot of interesting things to bring to the Department of Ag as a commissioner-elect for the Republican Party. I believe he will prevail in the general, so he'll be great to work with. So we're still waiting. We've invited the Secretary of Ag, Brooke Rollins, to come. Still waiting on confirmation from them. And she can certainly provide some really unique interest on the Farm Bridge Assistance, what they're working on from a trade standpoint. And then we'll have the U.S. Farm Report with Ty Morgan. They're going to come and video and tape a panel.
Perfect.
The National Cotton Council, as well as American Cotton Shippers and Plains Cotton Growers, will all be on a panel together and just talk about the wins and various things that we've been working on in the industry for the last 3 to 4 years. So that'll be pretty unique. And then we've got Jeff Bloomfield as our keynote. He hails from Ohio, from a farming background.
Okay.
Grew up on a farm. He's a neuroscientist by trait now.
Okay.
Not in the sense of an academia type individual that you really have sometimes hard time digesting what they're saying. He's very straight-laced, very down to earth,
Yep.
very easy to communicate with. But he's going to talk about in general context just the neuroscience of the brain, how we receive information, how we digest it, how we regurgitate it back out from a communication standpoint, so that way we can be better advocates. It's really unique, and it'll be a lot of fun. And we have a couple of breakout sessions in the afternoon. One will be a panel from several key DC staff folks that are going to be in town to just talk about the ins and outs inside baseball of how some of the policy has been derived and worked through in different channels. That'll be in the afternoon, and then we've got a marketing-based panel just talking about some of the economic conditions, what we're working on to try to stabilize markets like Buy America Cotton Act from a couple of key different merchants of walks of life. One is a couple of them here locally. One of them is actually a merchant from New Jersey that really focuses more on the fundamentals, the managed markets, managed money. So a different perspective than what you and I and a lot of local folks probably think about a lot of times. They also have a tax panel to talk about different tax reform provisions that some may not know about or think about in a more normalized term as they start looking at restructuring. There's going to be a lot of that going on now with how LLCs and S-corps are not going to be treated underneath the One Big Beautiful Bill. So just starting to kind of think a little bit more outside the box and capitalize on all the products and risk management tools that are available. So we're excited. It's going to be fun. We've typically had a very large turnout the last couple of years. Expect the same. So I appreciate Wylie for sure for helping us with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
A critical asset, critical friend, and helping us get this thing off the ground and running, as well as other key folks as well. So.
Yes, sir. Well, it's our pleasure. Absolutely. Well, speaking of, you mentioned tax. Is that an area we can get into?
Sure.
Okay. So what's the outlook on the tax situation? What's the changes that you're predicting?
So the vast majority of the ag industry's tax reform provisions, they were fixing to expire as we got into the end of this calendar year, end of 2025.
Gotcha.
So with the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, that essentially extended the vast majority of the tax reform provisions that most producers in industry have utilized for a number of years, more so in perpetuity, which is a great thing. Creates more certainty. There's a lot of folks going through their returns right now, early starting to going into middle of tax season, and then going into the fall as well, October from an extension standpoint. But it maintains, like I said, bonus depreciation, Section 179, Section 199A. It does make some key enhancements on some provisions with the estate tax, so making sure we do revert back to a lower level. So I know it's a very unique thing as the states continue to grow and become more robust, just because of sheer need from a risk management standpoint overall. Industry size of scale gets bigger to manage that risk. But a couple of the other key provisions is, so historically in the last 10, 12 years, like a joint venture structure or a general partnership has been treated as a pass-through entity. So where if you and I were in a joint venture together, as an example, you would have an individualized payment limit, and I would have an individualized payment limit underneath that structure for Title I.
Gotcha.
Now what the One Big Beautiful Bill did was it restructured and maintained everything pretty much except for a C Corp as a true pass-through entity. So an LLC, by example, prior to that, it would only have one single limit no matter how many partners it had in that LLC.
Okay.
Now that'll be just the opposite. However many partners are there, they'll all have their own limit.
It's
all tied to your Social Security, so you can only capitalize on that up to a certain amount. But you're not penalized for structuring your entity that way as well.
Interesting. Okay. So it's definitely going to help a lot more.
It will. It will.
Build up on that. Getting back into a little bit of the research side of things, do you think that kind of these pseudo cotton types are going to help in the long run as far as restructuring everything and making everything a little bit easier, a little cheaper, a little more sustainable?
It remains to be seen, I would say. Devil's in some of the details on that. I think providing growers with a vast array of options is always a positive thing. That way they can pick and choose if they want to use a non-traded piece of chemistry or a chemistry or a seed that's come offline from a patent-based standpoint. They can do that if they want to. They can still focus on the traded seeds that are available today as well. So having options at their disposal is a big thing. Chemistry is another big thing. One thing that's kind of been kind of like having a on again, off again relationship with a girlfriend in high school, I guess, is we've had the chemistry at one point in time, then it got repealed, and we've had it now again, and then, it's just kind of an obtuse deal, but hopefully there can be some longevity in that and making sure that the right type of chemistry is available for an individual's operation more long term. But we're optimistic about that, and then also too having more chemistry come online. We've got to continue to make sure we maintain relevancy. Is what's an effective tool, what's not. And I know industry as well as research are working at it alike, but it does take time. I hope most understand that some of these parameters can't just be built out overnight. It takes anywhere from 10 to 12 years to develop a trait that's fully marketable, either with that's a seed variety or with a herbicide or pesticide trait. So I know there's things in the pipeline, but it just does take some time to honestly get there and follow all the regulatory hurdles that they have to go through to bring it to fruition. So.
Yeah, running through all the systems and checks, and
that's right.
There's quite a few.
Not a bad thing. I mean, by the time it gets to be a viable product that's online, it's been tested, scientifically proven, it's safe.
Yes.
And there's a regimen in place to utilize it in a safe and effective manner too.
Yeah.
That's a key component to all this, to make sure that we're being responsible and good stewards when we utilize the product.
Well, absolutely. So how has your efforts in DC been benefiting more on a state level so far?
Good. Excuse me.
You're good.
So our efforts in DC have been really good. We can even almost backdate it to 2024, which was really kind of when we started turning the curve a little bit, when we knew we weren't going to get a farm bill done completely by the end of that year, but knew that the economic situation was really dire. We knew that probably back in the spring and summer of 2024. And so there was a large organization effort led by the cotton industry as a whole, honestly. But we did a big fly-in into DC in September of 2024, and it was really harmonizing. You had groups like ours, you had soybeans, corn, wheat, farm credit, insurance, all going into a congressional member or Senate member's office together, talking about the same issue of how the financial situation in the ag economy is not doing very well, and that something needed to be done. I haven't seen that since I was there 20-something years ago, honestly.
Oh, man.
So it was really unique for how that harmonized.
Yeah.
It really brought the issue to the forefront. It was very heavily recognized too. Same, we've utilized social media content in a more unique manner than we've ever done before. There's a lot more growers that are a lot more comfortable with, their industry a lot more comfortable with, of standing out in the field and just showcasing a video of themselves, talking about their operation, their family, the importance and the need and the value of foreign policy as a whole. That being said, kind of going back to that was part of the secondary round. After the DC fly-in, there was a second aspect of really putting growers on X and Instagram and whatnot, trying to reaffirm what was advocated for that week in DC, and it created a lot of momentum. And so that was where the economic assistance program was essentially birthed into light through a bill carrier by the name of Trent Kelly.
Okay.
He's a member out of Mississippi. He was the bill author in the House that filed it. Industry as a whole were able to kind of help mold and shape the prescriptiveness of it, because we wanted it to be very prescriptive.
Right.
That way, Congress at the time couldn't really change any of the schematics of it. And same, if we had a new USDA, of which we did, they can come in and just say, well, y'all gave us a pot of money, we can kind of go develop it how we wanted that way. And so I had to follow some guidelines and some rules with this to make sure it was palatable, it could be implemented very quickly. So all that being said, we got through September, got into the months of November after Thanksgiving, and things kind of got wild and hairy for a minute. I mean, it was to one point, everything was hunky-dory, to an hour later, everything had fallen off the rails, to 2 days later, everything was hunky-dory again, to 2 hours later after that, everything was in jeopardy again. So it was really this weird back and forth. But fortunately, they were able to
recognize the importance of the value that come to your senses and include that addition in an end of the year package going into the calendar year of 2025 and implement fairly quickly for some financial relief for the industry. And it was needed. We got messages and calls from folks that honestly we had never heard of before. It was real.
Yeah.
People were just in a bad place, and not just from a financial standpoint. They were getting to a point that even like their mental health was in a bad place, and so we were very cognizant of that. Of how do we resolve this and take some of that strain off the body and off the mind to be able to go forward in another year. And fortunately, we were able to help have a hand in that. So.
Well, good deal. I'm glad to hear it. And so, what's your projections on 2026? Are we looking better? Or?
I think relatively, our price it's been up today. We ought to do this more often. It's going to jump this high today. We were up 110 points earlier, so,
Okay.
which is great on the December market. So prices is getting a little bit better. I do need some rain.
Yes.
One of the difficult things, and Mother Nature is one of the key things that we just have no say over.
I understand.
Unless you go wash your car, just keep praying. I guess is it.
Yes, sir.
But we do need some good rain. I think as far as acres wise go in our region, we'll probably be up just a little bit, largely because the forage contracts, as you get kind of the upper northwest, aren't nearly as lucrative as what they once were. And so sure that will go back into cotton where they have good water, same in the upper panhandle as well, just from a rotational standpoint. So I think our acres will be relatively the same, if not a little bit more. Historically, we'll plant around 3.5 to 3.7 billion acres in our service area, in that 42 counties. Statewide, we usually average about 6 million. If you look at the Southwest as a whole, so Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, New Mexico, you're probably looking at 6.3, 6.4, around in there.
Okay.
So hopefully I have a pretty decent year as far as planting conditions go.
Sure.
Just need Mother Nature to play ball just a little bit.
Well, hopefully.
We could grow a really good crop just with periodic rains. It doesn't have to be a catastrophic rains over and over,
Yes.
but we need the overall elements to play well. So periodic rains, hopefully no high winds like we experienced the other day. We're very limited with that.
Yes.
Dry out what we do receive.
Yes.
Temperatures to stay pretty modest. Certainly cotton is a crop that does like heat units, but we don't need to have 30, 40 plus days of 100 plus degree weather. We need to cool off a little bit, give that plant some reprieve. But we could grow a good crop when that happens. We did in 21. We had a fairly decent crop year this year in gist. Now, granted, our production volume was still down,
Sure.
but our quality was phenomenal across the board for the most part.
Yeah.
And so when we have good growing conditions, we can grow a good crop. At least had less acres this year.
Yeah.
Was the main thing. So I'm optimistic.
Good.
I feel pretty positive about it. We'll see what happens as people start putting seed in the ground.
Yes.
That's the unknown, obviously, but we can move quickly, faster than we've ever been able to move before, just because of technology. Let's say we get a rain, people can get a crop in the ground pretty quick. So it's not like we're out there for months on end trying to get it going. So.
Sure. So technology, is that starting to play a bigger factor in everything?
It is. No, it absolutely is. It's more efficient. It can run longer. By example, the cotton harvesting equipment, the round belt stripper, they can run later into the night than they normally have ever been able to do. Same with the just the overall efficiency in planting technology, more precision ag. They could look at their expenses a lot more closely because it is costly, as you know,
Sure.
to do a lot of this. So making sure that there's better seed precision when they put it in the ground, so they can either utilize less seed or more seed depending on what their operation size looks like. Same for like seed and spray technology as an example. It's just trying to be more efficient and more effective in what you're doing, and so technology is going to continue to play a part in that role.
Yeah. Well, hopefully a positive part, as we all would predict.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, I think we can. If there's anything else you wanted to touch on real quick.
I just appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all today. Appreciate the industry as a whole.
Yes, sir.
We're very proud of the industry. It is the largest economic driver within this community. And I hope people have a strong recognition of that, because as the ag economy ebbs and flows, so does our own economy.
Yes.
And so it's huge to recognize that, whether you're directly involved or indirectly involved in it. And so I hope everybody just always keeps that in the back of their mind.
Yes, sir. Well, that actually brought up a thought. I've heard a lot around here that we are trying to keep cotton in Texas. Is that looking good or?
Yeah, it's different than what it was 30 years ago.
Sure.
But yeah, it certainly is. Trying to keep cotton, vibrant within the area. Now, are we having to change some of our methodologies and our agronomic practices? No doubt about that. Because we are looking at more limited base irrigation or dry features. But we are trying to maintain the resiliency within the crop and maintain it here. I had a predecessor of mine has said this, and it probably has some merit to it. This will be one of the last places in the U.S. that will ever grow cotton, so we need to make sure that it's vibrant for as long as we can, at least for my kids, families beyond me,
Yes, sir.
et cetera. So we want to maintain this area.
Absolutely. Well, like you said, it drives the economy.
That's right.
So we need to make sure it's still thriving, and I think it is. I
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah, it is. It's been tough times, but this too shall pass.
Yes,
We just
absolutely.
have to keep bearing that in mind. Keep the faith. Just keep fucking on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, sorry to cut it short, but I definitely appreciate you coming in and giving us a little rundown of what's going on, and hopefully do another one maybe one of these times.
That'd be great.
All right.
Appreciate that. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.